Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back for a Monday edition of the Steel City Sports Report, where we talk all things Steelers, Penguins, and Pirates. I am your host, Brady Vini, and today's report includes Russell Wilson and the Steelers offense explodes against the Bengals. Mike Tomlin calls out George Pickens for his immaturity. Are the Pittsburgh Penguins beginning to figure things out? And more. As always, please be sure to like, comment, and share this video, as well as subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get into the first news story of the day. Russell Wilson and the Steelers offense explodes against the Bengals. Happy Victory Monday, Steelers Nation, and man, what a game that was yesterday as your Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 44-38. In the first quarter, the first drive of the game, which was a 3-and-out for the Bengals offense, was the only drive of the first quarter that didn't end in a touchdown. The Steelers offense put up 2 touchdown drives, and the Bengals offense had 1 touchdown drive with a pick 6 by their defense that should have been pass interference. The second quarter was more of the same, with both teams exchanging touchdowns at the start. However, the final 4 total possessions of the half saw the Bengals lose a fumble and punt, while the Steelers had 2 field goals. The third quarter only had 3 full drives, and Cincinnati put up 3 points to Pittsburgh's 7. And lastly, the fourth quarter is when the Steelers' defense came alive. They turned up the pressure on Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow, making him throw an interception and fumble the ball, which the Steelers ran back for a touchdown on consecutive drives. Cincy would follow up with 2 touchdown drives broken up by a Pittsburgh field goal, but the black and gold would hang on for the victory. To go more in depth, here are some MVPs for the Steelers, and I probably won't be able to name them all here from this matchup. The first MVP of the game, without a sliver of doubt, is quarterback Russell Wilson. Russ cooked, completing 29 of 38 attempts for 414 passing yards, 3 touchdowns to only 1 fluke INT, and a passer rating of 126.4. In the first half alone, Wilson had 257 passing yards, which was a career record for him in the first half. Russ played his best game of the season yesterday and looked like a top quarterback in the league who's won a Super Bowl before. The second MVP of the game is one of Russ's receivers in tight end Pat Freiermuth. The chants of "Muth" may still be echoing in Paycor Stadium right now, as 88 caught 6 passes on 7 targets for 68 yards and a touchdown. Freiermuth continues to own the moniker of Bengal Killer for the Steelers, having 24 receptions for over 300 yards and 2 scores in 4 career games versus Cincy. And the final MVP of the game is going to be shared by the top 2 players on the Steelers defense. TJ Watt and Cam Hayward dominated the Bengals O-line and made life a living hell for Joe Burrow. Watt, in what was an excellent bounce-back showing for him after the Browns game, had 3 total tackles, all of them solo and for losses, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 5 quarterback hits. As for Hayward, Captain Cam continued his outstanding season, recording 5 total tackles, 3 of those solo, 2 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 1 pass defense, which was a tipped ball that Dante Jackson picked off. Even though the defense gave up 38 points, the 2 players on defense who needed to have good games in order for the Steelers to win, delivered. Wrapping this whole thing up, this was exhilarating to watch if you're a Steelers fan. The first half saw a combined 48 points scored, which was the most points scored in the first half in Steelers-Bengals matchup history. The offense put up 500 total yards and 44 points, both of which the Steelers haven't done since 2018. The defense had its problems, Joey Porter Jr. having 5 penalties as a big one, but created turnovers throughout the game. Finally, head coach Mike Tomlin secured his 18th non-losing season, and his team now holds a 2-game lead in the AFC North. The Steelers' next game will be a chance for revenge against the Cleveland Browns, this time in Pittsburgh, next Sunday at 1 p.m. Mike Tomlin calls out George Pickens for his immaturity. Speaking of Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin, post-game he answered multiple questions from reporters. Among the questions was one about wide receiver George Pickens and the 2 post-play personal foul penalties he had against the Bengals. The personal foul penalties in question were Pickens dropping the ball on a Bengals defender after making a catch on one play and pointing to the crowd for a first down while making a gun-like gesture on another. Tomlin said, "He's just got to grow up, man. It's an emotional game. These divisional games are big. He's got a target on his back because he's George. He understands that, but he's got to grow up. He's got to grow up in a hurry." These 2 personal foul penalties weren't the only Pickens issues that Tomlin addressed yesterday. In the first quarter, Pickens was heated after not receiving a pass interference call on the Bengals' Cam Taylor-Britt pick 6. After that happened, Tomlin grabbed Pickens on the sideline and appeared to either calm him down or give him an earful. Anyway, frustrations like the non-PI call are somewhat warranted, but Pickens having those 2 personal fouls is inexcusable. Whether or not Pickens can show more self-control will be put to the test next weekend when the Steelers have their heated rematch with the Browns. Najee Harris explains what caused his odd-looking injury. In the first quarter of yesterday's Steelers-Bengals game, running back Najee Harris was involved in the passing and running game early and often. After catching a screen pass on the Steelers' second drive, something weird was going on with Harris. Once he caught the ball and began running upfield, Harris appeared to slow down and stumbled a few times before heading out of bounds. Once he was out of bounds, he crouched down and was looked at by the training staff. Harris was out for about half a quarter of play as he received oxygen and fluids to spell what affected him. Once he re-entered the game, whatever was bothering Harris didn't hamper his play too much, as he finished with 22 touches for 129 yards and a touchdown. Post-game, the Steelers running back was asked what happened on that play, and Harris explained what he thought was the problem, saying, "Thanksgiving. Pat's girlfriend Jill, she makes this fire-ass little banana thing, and I had too much. I guess I didn't know it affected me until that first drive, so I blame her." Harris added that once he got some orange slices in his body on the sideline, he was feeling much better. With that being said, I don't know what Pat Freiermuth's girlfriend made, but it would be best to keep Najee away from it until after the season, as he will be needed down the stretch and without any Thanksgiving food hangover. Steelers OC Arthur Smith addresses UNC head coach rumors. Last week, the University of North Carolina football program fired longtime head coach Mack Brown. With that head coaching position now open, many have been rumored to be candidates for the job, including Steelers offensive coordinator and UNC alumnus Arthur Smith. Well, on Thanksgiving Day at the Steelers facility, Smith addressed the rumors of him being a heavy favorite for the UNC job, saying, obviously it's your alma mater. It's not something I've thought about. Like a lot of these things go, I know in today's media, things can blow up out of control. But the reality is, they reached out on a preliminary call. I appreciate it, I love that place, but that's not my focus. I mean, I've got one of the best jobs in football right now. Can't put a price on personal and professional happiness, which I have here. That's usually how it goes. People cast a wide net, and some narratives get out of control, and you try to control it. It's nice somebody reaches out, sure, but again, I've got an awesome job here. I love it here in Pittsburgh. Probably a different mindset than I was 4 years ago. Any head job, I would probably walk there and take it. Now my perspective is different. When you got something good, like I got here in Pittsburgh right now, my family loves it here, I like the working environment, I love being a Steeler. With all that said, it's great that Smith declined the job offer at UNC. I'm sure he wants to become an NFL head coach again soon, and his best route to do so probably wasn't going back to school. In my opinion, I think Smith will return next season as the Steelers OC. After being head coach in a dysfunctional Atlanta Falcons organization for 3 years, he isn't going to take the first job thrown his way and wind up in another bad situation. Besides, after watching the offense put up 500 yards and 44 points yesterday, Smith probably wants to keep these good times rolling. And finally, are the Pittsburgh Penguins beginning to figure things out? Since last week's final episode of the Steel City Sports Report, the Pittsburgh Penguins played 3 games, and dare I say, they looked good. On Wednesday last week, the Penguins ended their 3-game losing streak, defeating the Vancouver Canucks 5-4. The game really shouldn't have been as close as it was, with the Pens taking a 5-2 lead into the third period, but they held on just enough to escape with the win. 2 nights later, up in Boston, the Penguins earned a hard-fought 2-1 victory over the Bruins. It took everyone to get the win, which was just Pittsburgh's 4th victory in their last 12 trips to Boston. The next night, and back in Pittsburgh, the Penguins put together one of their best performances this season, beating the Calgary Flames 6-2. The Pens outshot the Flames 43-32 in that game and felt in control for most of the night. To recap, after a 3-game losing streak with losses to Tampa Bay, Winnipeg, and Utah, the Penguins are now on a 3-game winning streak with victories over Vancouver, Boston, and Calgary. There really isn't too much to nitpick from these victories either. During this streak, the stars on the team have showed up in a big way. In the last 3 games, the quintet of Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson, and Brian Rust have a combined 3 goals and 14 assists for 17 points. Better than that, in my opinion, is that the Pens are getting some quality secondary scoring from the likes of Michael Bunting, Anthony Beauvillier, Blake Lizotte, and newcomer Philip Tomasino. Lastly, the goaltending, which has been an issue this season, was good. Take away the near collapse against the Canucks, and you'll see that Tristan Jarry and Alex Nedeljkovic put together superb back-to-back performances against the Bruins and Flames. Whether or not these last 3 games were a fluke will be found out tomorrow night when the Pens host the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Puck drop for that big test is scheduled for 7 p.m. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up a Monday edition of the Steel City Sports Report. Again, please be sure to like, comment, and share this video, as well as subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow with some more Pittsburgh sports news.